Karl-Anthony Towns has revealed the truth on his thumb injury and how it's affecting his play, which the stats show, as that injury has kept him out of some games as well and could linger for a while this season. While also we have an update on Josh Hart, a shocking stat, which is wild to see, as Tom Thibodeau and many Knicks fans and Karl-Anthony Towns all discuss why Josh Hart should be an all-star, having fans fired up, and we're going to break it all down, discussing Towns' injury, what this could mean for the New York Knicks for the rest of the season, and then also talking about Josh Hart and the awesome season he's had and why he does deserve to be an all-star this year. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here. And guys, if you're enjoying the content, make sure to subscribe. If you're part of that 68% who isn't subscribed and you want daily New York Knicks news, updates, we're throwing more YouTube shorts at you guys, TikToks. We're having a lot of fun live streams. We're going to become more than once a week. Going to do some impromptu live streams randomly sometimes. It's going to be a lot of fun. You guys don't want to miss out. So make sure to subscribe if that sounds fun to you. And if it doesn't, well, I can't tell you what to do. But look, the New York Knicks are in a weird situation right now as Karl-Anthony Towns is dealing with an injury. Towns has been one of the best players for the New York Knicks this season, arguably the best player on the team. It's why he's been in the top of the MVP ladder. Not number one, but he's been right up there with Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. One of those two will win MVP. It should be Jokic. People who disagree have just absolutely lost their minds. Jokic is putting up a historic year, but, well, that's a conversation for a different day. Karl-Anthony Towns is right up there as he belongs, but recently he hasn't been playing the same, and that's because he hurt his thumb. He went up for a shot against the Detroit Pistons and slammed his thumb into the backboard, which just absolutely sucks. There's a bunch of photos you can see of him grabbing on to that right thumb, which is his shooting hand, which is obviously worrisome when you look at a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns, who is the best shooting big man on the planet. But we have seen Karl-Anthony Towns get it together a little bit, especially recently. Last night against the Memphis Grizzlies, Towns balled out, played really well, shot the ball well, and it seems like he could be getting more comfortable with this. However, Ian Begley broke the whole situation down and what Karl-Anthony Towns had to say on the matter. Now, as Begley said, Towns has said that his right thumb injury is impacting his perimeter shot. Entering Monday's game against Memphis, he was 1 for 10 from beyond the arc in the last 3 games, since returning to the court with a bone chip in his sprained thumb. On Monday, he made 2 of 4 shots from 3 and finished with 24 points and 11 rebounds. So Karl-Anthony Towns is starting to get it back together as he's learning to shoot with his injured hand. Look, if you have a hand injury and you can play on it, it means you can most likely figure out a way to shoot on that hand injury. And Karl-Anthony Towns fully believes that he is going to be able to play on the hand injury throughout as far as the Knicks go and as long as his hand is hurt. Now, it has been reported that he does not need surgery on this either this season or after the season, which is a good sign. It will heal on its own. But a bone chip plus a sprained thumb could take some time. And obviously, when it's your right thumb and you're a shooter, that's one of the most important fingers on the hand for shooting the ball. So Karl-Anthony Towns is obviously not going to be at 100% for a bit, and it could last for the foreseeable future as far as this season goes. I mean, it's going to take a while to heal. It could always get re-injured. He's getting a ton of rebounds. He's fighting down low. He's a physical player. It's real easy for some incidental contact where he bangs his hand into someone else, and that could lead to further injury, which is obviously scary. Now, something I do want to say is by no means should anyone start to blame Tom Thibodeau for this. I know people like to blame Tibbs when Knicks players get injured, but Towns hit his hand against the backboard. There's nothing we could do here to blame Tom Thibodeau, so no one should try. It just makes no sense to do that with this specific injury, even if some other times you want to blame Tibbs, and it does make some more sense. This is not something that Tom Thibodeau could be blamed for at all. This is just unfortunate luck. Now, taking a look at what else was brought up by Karl-Anthony Towns himself, he said, man, it's been a struggle, huh? I was bad. I ain't gonna lie to you. I was worried my damn self. Regardless of what happens, shooter's mindset, the next one's in, and that just kept shooting and just kept shooting the basketball. My teammates instill a bunch of confidence in me regardless of what's happening, and I just wanted to reward them for that and kind of trust me. I am happy that they did tonight. I could hit some threes to give some more spacing on the offensive side. Now, guys, I just read that at a 3rd grade reading level, but the point still stands. Karl-Anthony Towns is getting his shooting confidence back, and he's adjusting, even with the injury, saying that he's not losing confidence at all, and that even though he was worried about his shot, he knew how good of a shooter he was, and that the Knicks team has instilled confidence in him. And there should be instilled confidence in the way that Karl-Anthony Towns plays basketball. I mean, why not? Like, the man's been so good for the New York Knicks this season. There's no reason to not be confident in the way Karl-Anthony Towns is playing. Taking a look at Towns' stats on the year, he's putting up 25 points, 13.8 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 3.4 assists, getting a steal per game, getting nearly a block per game. Both those numbers have been climbing throughout the season. His three-point percentage is down to only 43% from three, so what will the Knicks do now? But also shooting 54% from the field. Karl-Anthony Towns is still playing phenomenal basketball, and he deserves all the flowers in the world for that. Now, Ian Begley mentioned in his article, did Towns' shooting improve on Monday because he's getting used to playing with a sprained bone chip in his hand, or was it a sign that his injured thumb is feeling better? And Towns said, it ain't the last question. I think it's more just getting comfortable, Towns said. So meaning that he thinks it's just getting used to playing with it and that it's not feeling better at all. Towns being very transparent there. And Begley mentioned that Towns is obviously playing through discomfort and he plans to play through it for the rest of the season. Meaning that for the rest of the year, we're probably not going to see the fully healthy version of Karl-Anthony Towns. Does that mean all hope is lost? Absolutely not. Karl-Anthony Towns will be all right in the long run, and it feels like if you see the way he played last night, it's not really too much of a cause for concern, if you ask me. I mean, he's played 5 games since injuring his hand. He's averaging 21 points, 12.5 rebounds, and 3.8 assists. Now, yes, those numbers are down. The three-point percentage dropped to 30. His field goal percentage is 44. It's definitely worrisome, but it's also the first days after the injury, and we just saw him put up 26 and 12 and shoot 4 for 9 from 3, just looking like the normal Karl-Anthony Towns. So I don't think there's too many reasons to have some cause for concern. And the game prior with the Knicks, even though he did shoot 1 for 3 from 3, it was one of those games where just everyone else on the Knicks scored so many points. I mean, OG Anunoby looked great, Mikal Bridges looked great, Brunson looked great, Hart looked great. When the Knicks have 5 guys who could all score 15 plus, 20 plus on any given night, sometimes it's just not going to be your night, and that was just not Towns' night. He just kind of deferred to the other guys. Also, he did shoot 5 for 18, so it was a rough shooting game in general. But the Knicks do have the scoring to kind of cover for Towns, and they just have the rebounding in Josh Hart because, well, Josh Hart just happens to be the GOAT, as seen by Stefan Bondy, who mentioned that perhaps the most impressive Knicks showing in the All-Star voting is that Josh Hart received 18 player votes, tying Tyrese Halliburton, Tyler Hero, and Derek White for 10th most among East backcourt players. NBA players believe that Josh Hart deserves All-Star recognition, even if the fans don't, because that's not the style of basketball that works. When you're Josh Hart, you don't really get those votes. When you're a dirty work guy doing all that stuff, it's very rare. Draymond Green got it a few times, but that's because Draymond Green was on a team that had a ton of great press. And the Warriors, because they kept winning championships or making the NBA Finals, so everyone just was ready for Draymond to be there. Josh Hart's numbers are actually better than Draymond Green's in 2017, the year Draymond won Defensive Player of the Year. So Josh Hart, I think, certainly deserves All-Star recognition, and I think it would make sense that he gets an All-Star vote to show that, hey, you could be in a role player type situation, but if you excel in that role, you will get a vote for the All-Star game. I mean, we saw the Hawks not lose a game in 2015 in January, and then Jeff Teague, Kyle Korver, Al Horford, and Paul Millsap all became All-Stars that season. Were they all terrific players? Yes, they were great. Were they all like stars, superstar, All-Star level players? No, but it led to winning and it led to success, and because what they were doing was leading to winning basketball, they got the All-Star recognition that they deserved by the coaching staff that added them onto the team, because coaching staff does do the bench. So we could see coaches who are very, very high on Josh Hart actually put him on the All-Star game this season. Josh Hart's been adamant that he doesn't really want to play in the All-Star game, despite the fact that it would be an honor, as he does want to take the break. He does want to go on vacation and get a little time away, which Karl-Anthony Towns basically said, no, he doesn't. I don't want him to get his break. I want him to be playing in the All-Star game. Tom Thibodeau basically said that Josh Hart deserves to be an All-Star as well. Everyone understands that Josh Hart should be an All-Star, with Towns shouting him out, with Tibbs shouting him out. Josh Hart 1,000% deserves to be an NBA All-Star this season. I want to see Josh Hart become an All-Star this year so badly. Now, Josh Hart, it's a question on if he'll make it, but he himself kind of discussed this question and basically said, well, he won't make it. He said, I don't pay much attention to the voting. I mean, it's cool, and if I was ever able to get to something like that, it would obviously be an honor, but that's not for a guy like me, man. And a guy like me, which Josh Hart means, is a guy who puts up 14 points per game, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 1.5 steals, shoots 55% from the field, and 36% from 3. The way that he just leads to winning and still puts up a double-double on the season, 14, 10, and 6, you know those numbers alone are borderline all-star numbers. Let alone the fact that he just leads to winning. He does all the dirty work. Josh Hart should be an all-star this season. I'm being so real. I know I'm a Knicks fan. I understand that I'm biased. I'm not going to act like I'm not biased towards the Knicks. I am. But, I mean, look at what this man's doing. He's just doing everything for the Knicks while playing the second most minutes per game. The man's hard work deserves to get recognized. I get that it's not as flashy as some other guys, but what he does leads to winning, and he deserves it the same way those Hawks players got it in 2015. Josh Hart has done so much good for the New York Knicks. He deserves to get that recognized by the NBA entirely and show that he's more than a role player. So when you hear the name role player, like what Josh Hart sort of is, it doesn't basically always get affiliated with someone who can never be better than that. I think it is good for basketball, and Josh Hart deserves it. I would love to see Josh Hart make the All-Star game. I also wouldn't mind him getting the break that he wants. Josh Hart deserves a break as much as anyone ever, but I know that it would mean the world to him if he got to the All-Star game. Jalen Brunson would obviously be thrilled to have his best friend there. Karl-Anthony Towns would be thrilled to have his guy there. And look, Coach Kenny Atkinson, it's going to be interesting to see who he puts on that All-Star team. Obviously, we'll see maybe a Cav or two there with Kenny doing that. But Kenny Atkinson doesn't strike me as someone who would be too biased. So we will see what he gets up to, who he wants to pick for his All-Star game. And obviously, with it being a little bit different this year, I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, it's the whole 3 All-Star teams, and it's a little 4-team tournament. You know, no one actually cares. It's the matter of who gets voted into the All-Star game. Like, oh, this person got the All-Star votes. Good for them. Hooray. That's awesome. And that's really the end of it. And that's also the end of this video. So, guys, if you enjoyed, leave a comment down below. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day, and go Knicks.